I stand here today saying words that I never thought I'd ever say. To myself, looking back at the mirror, or publicly. And it's that I am resilient. If you look back at my life for the last 10, 20 years, you'd find somebody who thought that they didn't matter, that they didn't belong, and they truly believed that they didn't deserve to be here living. But I'm here. I'm standing right here, saying the words, I am resilient. When you look at the word resiliency, it's all about overcoming struggle. And we're fortunate enough to see resiliency every single day through our healthcare workers, our frontline workers, who continuously look and manage and deal with struggles and difficulties every day. And yet they still show up to work and their careers, and they overcome, and they continue to save lives. But struggle can fall on a wide spectrum. Your best day could be my absolute worst. That joyous moment that you celebrated could have been somebody's absolute nightmare. But regardless, I truly believe that we are all inherently resilient. But where do we find that blueprint for resiliency? Where do we look for and refer to and say, hey, this is how I overcome this struggle? Because we go through so many different derivatives of struggle that what is that one place we can go? It's the purpose of my talk today to talk about how you can unlock resiliency within and serve as a catalyst for others to find their own resiliency, to overcome their struggle with relentless empathy. Now, to baseline what empathy is all about looking at things from a different lens, walking a day in somebody else's shoes and their perspective that you don't normally see every day. And I want to tell you a quick story about my most recent encounter with somebody that I found to be very empathetic. I've always wanted to take dance lessons. It's been 5, 6, 7 years. But I've always been so fearful of walking through a dance studio and just going in, trying it out. And I didn't want to. Because every anxiety of fear of, hey, they're going to be watching my feet, they're going to make fun of me, they're going to laugh at me. Every single piece of anxiety that I thought if I went through that door, that's how it would feel. But you know what? I did it recently. And lo and behold, all those feelings that I've been thinking about for the last 5, 6, 7 years came to fruition. But it wasn't until this instructor pulled me to the side and said, hey, Chris, you got it. You got it. Like me? It's like, yeah. But you're looking at feet, you're looking at everybody else. Your knees are hitting each other because you're too busy worrying, you're not feeling the music. And that moment there acknowledged every little piece of feeling that I was feeling at that moment. It felt good. It's like, wow, he really acknowledged everything that I was feeling, showcased an open mind, because clearly it's my first time, or I'm very new at it, and was patient. All of those I didn't realize gave me inherent value that I appreciate. But imagine for a second if you had a professor, an instructor, or a teacher, and you're trying to learn a concept with others in your class. And everybody gets it. Everybody. But you don't. And imagine if that prof didn't take the time to acknowledge your presence, didn't take the time to understand why aren't you getting it, and wasn't patient with you at all. How would you feel? It would suck. Why is it so hard to find our resiliency? Why is it so hard for us to overcome struggle? How can you even articulate that you're struggling if you're put in that situation with somebody that's not empathetic? But there are 2 reasons why I feel like it's so hard to find resiliency. 2 reasons. And first, it all starts with our mental health. Now, mental health textbook definition is a state of our psychological well-being. My definition answers one simple question. How you doing? For real. Now, when you say how you doing, everybody answers the question. How you doing? How you doing? Yeah, I'm fine. I'm good. Yeah. But add that level of for real to the end. Forces you to look at yourself and say, well, for real, okay, well. Because you're the only one that can really truly answer that. How you're feeling for real, actually, with sincerity. And if we don't have the capacity to articulate that, how can we solve struggle if we can't even recognize it ourselves? The second piece, the second reason why it's so hard to find resiliency and overcome struggle is our emotional capacity. That professor that just doesn't want to give you any empathy at all, they're not obligated. They're not obligated to be empathetic. They're not obligated to care. We all have different emotional capacities and experiences that we don't know about. But what if, I want you to imagine for a second, what if you did know somebody's emotional state and how they're feeling for real? Do you think you would change your approach? Do you think you would change your approach with how you treat people, how you interact with them? And I challenge you to think, as I read you something that answers the question in time, or I answered that question with sincerity, how you doing for real? With something I wrote. If I hear one more time how I have it all together, I don't know how much longer I'll stay and brace the weather. The storm of lies showing that I have it all, achievements, money, and a nice car. Yet I'm actually just steps away from a long, hard fall. What you see on the surface, you'll probably envy. But what you don't know is how every day my soul feels unbearably heavy. Wrapped around a showcase in entertaining disguise, some days I wish to be held, while my spirit continually dies. Senseless to my own worth, everyone is let in. Even after time and time again, it ends up being empty within. But for a sporadic moment, who cares if it's fake? Pretending it's all real avoids the usual heartache. Is it crazy for me to know that I'm being misled and I trick my own mind to believe everything that's said? Yeah, I'll be there. I really like you. You deserve it all. Call me if you need anything. But I like the feeling of being this high, a warm sense of belonging before I say goodbye. Call me a pessimist while I say I'm a realist. There's only one way to go to numb the pain and truly find peace where I'll never feel disdain. For the 100th draft, I write my graceful end. All I can put to paper isn't even close to a pen. They're the cuts that drip blood, I lose count after 10. The story of why this keeps happening again. My sincere, relentless belief. I am nothing in the end. How could I stand up here right now and tell you about a time where every single day I justified why I didn't deserve to be here, didn't belong, and I shouldn't be living? How? How could I do that? This is how. Internalization. When you internalize something within, it's those repetitive habits that you perform every single day. Every day, whatever that may be, thoughts, routines. When you wake up in the morning, whatever's associated to that, that is what you internalize within. And I want to tell you my journey of what I internalized for over a decade. And it all starts with family. All the love to my parents. They came here with your classic immigrant dream. They left the Philippines to come to Canada to make a better life, to provide for family back home. But all the things that mattered were food, money, water, family, and academics. That's it. That was the only things that were priority. And then I had my dad. Shout out to my dad. All the love to him too. But everything in that household growing up was about being a man. Stand up straight like a man. Walk like a man. Eat like a man. Talk like a man. I express any emotion and feeling, that's not being a man. And then let's take it back even further. Junior high, high school, 7, 8 years of my life where you're walking halls and every moment you can think of just justifies that you ain't good enough. That's what I internalized within. Whatever low, bottom feeling that equates to, multiply that by 10 less than that. That's what I felt every day. That's what I internalized. But what's crazy when I look back in retrospect, I truly believe all those things that happened, no matter what I internalized, I truly believed I really wanted to be happy. I look back in retrospect and I recognize that now, that I wanted to be happy. Ask yourself that question every single day, no matter what it is. Why am I going to school? Why am I going to work? Why am I doing anything? I promise you, that last thing that you answer is probably going to say, because it makes me happy. And who's going to debate that? What else is after that? So when I discovered self-harm for the first time, I thought that was like my body intuitively saying, hey, you want to be happy. Because all the mental duress that I couldn't express in my own household, I couldn't answer the question, how you doing for real, Chris? I couldn't answer that. There's no chance. There's no capacity. Not at home, not at school, nowhere. So when that intuitive act of that first moment of self-harm, and it just happened, whatever mental duress and mental pain that I was going through was gone. It lessened. It transitioned into physical pain. And the crazy part about that is that my mind believed that, okay, if I want to get closer to happiness, there it is. Because it felt good. But then I was wondering, well, what happens after that? If I take that a step further, where am I going? And that's how I justified the end. I misconstrued happiness with physical infliction of pain. And I look back in retrospect, that's not it. That's not what I really wanted. That's not what I really wanted. But that's how I got there. And that's a dangerous place. So I want to say, how could I say and share all of that for over a decade and justify every single moment of every waking day that I don't deserve to be here? How could I even be here today breathing and saying these words to you? And it's with two. It's with relentless empathy. When you add the word relentless to anything, it implies that you ain't giving up. You're making a concerted effort that whatever word comes after relentless, you're gonna keep going until you're there. So, I'm gonna share with you 3 things that you can do right now to practice relentless empathy. And I'm gonna tell it in story form. And it starts with acknowledgement. I remember this party, best friend throwing it every year. And I wasn't feeling good at this party, but no one knew. Everybody's seeing me. It's like, hey, you got it all together, always happy-go-lucky. But I just left that party. I wasn't feeling myself. I wasn't feeling good. Walked outside of the driveway. And it wasn't long before he came up. Said, hey, what are you doing? I got to go back to the party. What's going on? What's good? And I just said, and he acknowledged my presence. There were people walking by saying, whoa, what are you guys doing here? We got to go over there. Let's go back to the party. And he said, no, I'll be there in a bit. Put all his focus on where I was. Acknowledged my presence. I didn't know at the time, but that made me feel some type of way. And he probed. Showcased this level of openness that he didn't understand what was going on. Didn't understand at all. I just kept saying, I don't want to be here. But I actually meant it in the grand scheme of life that I didn't want to be here. And he looked at me. And the rest of the conversation, I don't remember the rest of it. But I'm going to put it on screen right now so you remember these words. Because no matter what, even if he didn't understand, he kept a mind that was open and said these words. The world would be less without you. For somebody that has internalized so much pain and belief about themselves for over a decade, to hear those words, I don't know. I couldn't even articulate. I have to go back in retrospect today and say that I know it gave me value. And it's something that I remember and I can take away with me forever. The third thing you can practice is patience. When you practice patience with someone, what you are doing with that is you are giving somebody your time. There is no greater currency than time. None. You can't buy it back. He could have been doing anything in the world at all, but he wanted to make sure that I was good and we got back to the party and that I was going to be okay. And all of those things put together showcased relentless empathy. You don't have to understand to the fullest, but he ultimately gave me value, showcased value towards me that I still am struggling with today to find. And I want to tell you right now, every day, if you practice those 3 things, you acknowledge yourself, you acknowledge the people around you, you keep an open mind, especially when you don't understand something. You don't have to get it, you don't have to agree, but that openness to keep a conversation going. And then you put that all together with patience, which is time. That is the ultimate compliment for anyone. The ultimate compliment for anyone. Don't matter what you're doing. You spending time with somebody, you showing them you got value. I value you because I could have been doing anything else in the world right now. I'm standing here sharing this story for you for one reason. I wrote this to let you in, attempting to make sense of everything within. From overt humor on the surface to wanting to fall into black abyss, you'll see why solitude threatened my life, how pain was the best high, and why joy was brought by a knife. Though my story shows a barrage of deceit, abuse, and how my soul repeatedly dies, hope always found a way to linger, despite its invisible disguise. Energized by newfound light, awoken with purpose and urge to share, and a reason to fight, let me show you what I found, and who knows what will ignite. I want you to focus in on that last line that you're looking at, and who knows what will ignite. My best friend that had that moment, he had no idea, to this day, no idea that that level of impact I sit here with today and I'm thinking about. Relentless empathy through acknowledgement, openness, and patience can create moments in your life and others that you'll never be able to quantify. I'm standing here today, still healing, still struggling, and still dealing with so many of the things that I've internalized for a decade. But I'm fortunate enough to be able to understand that that type of pain I don't want for anybody. And that type of pain and influence that you can have on other people can be as simple as one simple engagement or one simple moment. So when we acknowledge each other, and we're open, and we give the time, and we put in the time, the impact that that'll make, you'll never know about. And I'm standing here today, attributing relentless empathy to be able to breathe and look at you all and say that relentless empathy saved my life. Thank you.